No need to go far and wide. Let Hometown provide. Hometown Trophies and Embroidery in Lena can help turn your ideas into reality. From awards, engraving, and gifts to custom apparel and business accessories, they have you covered. Visit them today or give them a call at 815-369-9185. That's Hometown Trophies Embroidery. Let your vision become their masterpiece.
Welcome to NUIC All Access, joined by Jay Doyle. I'm your host, Kyle Katmeyer. On our show today is a local basketball player that went from small school to Division I and then played professionally and has returned home to coach at the high school level. Jay, introduce our guest to us today.
All right, I'll run it down. Our guest today is Sophie Brunner, and here's a look what Sophie's accomplished. At Aquin, she scored a career total of 2,541 points, which is a school record. She held a record of 103-24 at Aquin, including back-to-back 30-win seasons. She was back-to-back state champion. Her number 21 is retired at Aquin. She was a three-time All Pac-10 player at Arizona State. She is second at Arizona State in total rebounds. She is second at Arizona State in points scored with 1,405. Second at Arizona State in career shooting percentage at 56%. Arizona career leader in box plus minus and offensive box plus minus, which is a metric that evaluates a player while they are on the court. Arizona career leader in player efficiency rating metric that is combined with a player's contributing into one stat. Arizona career leader in total win shares, offensive win shares metric to compute a team success and individual success. She represented Team USA at the Pan American Games in Toronto and won silver. Then signed with the Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA in 2017. She was then traded to the San Antonio Stars, which is now the Las Vegas Aces, in 2017. Played at Torino and Milan in Serie A1 in Italy from 2017 to 2020. She was named MVP in Torino in 2017. Eurobasket.com All-Italian A1 honorable mention in 2018 and made the Italian Cup final in 2019. Hopefully everybody got all that.
So that's a long list of accolades here for Sophie for sure.
Yep.
Sophie, how important was the Aquin community in your journey, and what impact did their support have on your career?
To be honest, I wouldn't have been able to had any of the success that I was able to do or accomplish anything without them. They all played different roles in my life, just from the role of playing basketball in the CBA in second grade, all the coaches I had, to fifth to eighth grade, being coached by Rick Hauser and Gary Erdmeyer, just getting fundamental coaching done, to then go on being coached by Jeff Curry, and then Bones and Ryan. Just the impact they had on me basketball-wise was huge, but the community itself, it's just a family at the end of the day, and everyone looks out for each other, and everyone wanted me to succeed, but we all wanted to see each other succeed. So without that kind of culture, you don't really get to do these kind of things. So I truly believe that I would not be where I'm at without them.
No, and you hear that a lot when, and I love your story simply for the fact you always hear, and you probably heard that too, that you're not going to get seen because you play at a small school. You're not going to get seen because you go to a small school, and to see where people like you have gotten going to a smaller school at Aquin. I think a lot of people root for that, and they root for that, not the underdog, but the underdog type role of the small versus big. And you see that still, today when you see small schools play big schools and everything like that, because the fact is always, well, they can't compete because they don't play the competition we play. And to see the success that you had and where that transpired with Aquin and winning back-to-back, I think that was just a testament that any good team can play with any good team any given day. And that was the one cool thing that you saw back then and you still see today.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what was cool, like, we just played in the Dixon tournament, but I remember playing in that my junior year, the first year we went to state. We had lost to Stillman, and then we both went down to state. They got third, I believe, that year in 2A, and we got first. So it was just kind of cool to see that we can still hang with one of the top teams in 2A. We lost to them, I think. It was like a last minute, I remember. Something went crazy, but and then my senior year we beat like teams like Boylan in it and other big teams that as a 1A school, the whole thing we would hear is, you're 1A, like I don't know if you guys could do that in another class, but at the end of the day too, it takes a lot of you got to have the right players on the team, the right coach, the right system. There's a lot of things, as you guys know, that go into it to even have a successful. You could have all the best athletes, but if it's not the right mix, you're never gonna get where you're supposed to go. So.
Yeah, absolutely. How does growing up in a small school like Aquin influence your outlook on competition and teamwork?
I think honestly, just the standard and expectation we were held to every day really was ingrained in me in a young age of just one, how to respect others and how to respect your friends, your family, your teachers, adults, just knowing that, they're in charge and you don't run the world. You're a kid and you need to respect them. And I also think I was very fortunate for the class I was in and the teachers I had and just the parents I was surrounded around that I learned how to trust others and just trust that they really do want the best for you. It's not small. We didn't have a lot of different politics going on. Like everyone really wanted each other's kids to do well. So I think that was huge for going to Aquin and the small school atmosphere. I think you just have everyone rooting for you. So that kind of really always motivated me. And even when I was in college, I just really felt them like every day. Just people would reach out every weekend. Someone would come and visit, come watch a game. So their impact has always been left on me and always will. And again, like I said, I wouldn't be where I'm at without them.
So you guys won back-to-back state titles in 2012 and 2013. I guess the question is always when you see a team win back-to-back, which one was the hardest one to win? Which one was the easier? Because like the first one you win, you don't know what you're getting into, right? And then the second one, you guys know how to get there, but that target is on your back because you won the year before. So in your mind frame, which one was a little bit easier, or maybe you guys were just in the right groove, and which one did you have to fight a little bit more for?
Definitely the first one was, I don't want to say it was easier. I just think if you saw our team that year, you just saw like they have what it takes. Like we just had the defensive stopper, we had the shooters, we had the post players, we had the coach, we had the fans. It was just there. And then the second year, I think we honestly started the year 0-3, I believe, at the Dakota tournament. And Curry, that's when he started wearing those blue pants, and he said, "I'm going to wear these until we lose," and we never lost again. So we started off really rough. Really rough. And then I think we just decided like we're not going to have this kind of season. We graduated a lot of seniors, but we still had a good core. And we made it work that year, and we ended up down at state and won. So it was just a different type of year, but it was still obviously anytime you have a successful year like that, it's still so much fun. They're just very different kinds of years. So when you have all that expectation in the second year, it's definitely different than when you go down the first time, you experience it all for the first time. And now it's like, we know what to expect. We know how to get there, but now we got to get there again. So there's different feelings for it.
So your senior year, you guys played Anawan in the sectional championship, correct?
I think it was in the game before the state championship, actually.
Okay, so it was at Supers.
The semifinal to get into the
sectional state semifinal.
Yeah, state semifinal. Yeah.
And you guys won that game 39-38.
Yeah, I think Elena, if I remember that game, it was when Elena she shot it and she got fouled, but they didn't call it. And somehow, by the grace of God, it ended up in my hands and I shot it, and it was a whole thing. We really probably shouldn't have beat them because we were losing at that point, but it all works out how it should. So
Anawan featured the Van Hefty sisters. One was a freshman that year, the other was a junior that year. Both would go on to play Division I basketball themselves. Anawan would go on to win state the year after in 2013. Was it 2013? 2014.
We did it in 2013, so they would have won it in
2014.
Yep.
What was it? Do you remember going up against those girls, and what did that feel like as far as the intensity and the style of play that they had?
Yeah, I did. They were really aggressive They had a gnat about them. They had that small town, I'm gonna beat you at whatever it takes type of thing. Um, we we kind of struggled a lot with their pressure, with how aggressive they were. I just remember them being big and strong. And they were not happy when we won, obviously. Um, but the funny thing about that, so there was kind of some bad blood there. But then fast forward to my senior year of college, and ASU recruits Jade Van Hefty. So when they told me about it, I was like, oh gosh, like oh my god. I told my friends, I'm like, you're never gonna believe. And I had to like host her, but completely different experience. Like great family. Jade's an awesome kid. It's just funny because when I saw her parents, I was like, hey guys.
Hey, what's happening?
Yeah, I haven't seen you since we beat you in the state championship or going to the state championship. So it is kind of funny, but no, both her sisters had great careers, and then Jade had a great career at ASU. So it was kind of funny how that came full circle.
Well, and it's even funnier yet because their brother, Drake, played football, and Anawan Weathersfield made the state semifinals in 2019 against Lena Winslow, and he also went on to play Division One football, playing at Eastern Illinois as well. So they had a great family lineage of athletes in that family.
Yeah, all Division One.
Yeah.
So another cool thing about those state teams, recently it was announced that those two teams, 2012, 2013 state teams, will be inducted in the IBCA Hall of Fame. What was it like when you heard the news? Did you talk to any of your teammates after you guys heard the news that those teams are now going to be inducted, and the feeling that you have from that?
Yeah, so obviously we had no idea. We learned when everyone else learned. And a few of my friends started texting me and they asked if I knew about it. I was like, I have no idea. This is like they sent me the news article. I'm like, I didn't even hear about this. So we all started talking in a group chat about it, and I think our parents are more excited than us probably because they had a good time when we went to state. But no, I think it's just excitement, and I mean, I think the sad thing is that obviously that Jeff Curry isn't here anymore. He passed away, so it would have been awesome for him to experience this. Hopefully, his family can still come down and represent for him. But we don't win those without Jeff Curry. I truly believe he's one of, if not the best coaches that in the state of Illinois, just for who he was as a person, but also how he coached and the fire he brought out of you. Like you didn't have a choice. Like you were going to play hard for him. And it's just cool to see that we've been rewarded, not with just one team, but both teams. So I
Yeah,
thought that was really cool of them to do, and we're all really, really excited about it.
cool.
What are your thoughts on the current level of talent coming out of the NUIC and small schools in general? I know you're coaching at Rockford Christian, but you get to see some play against NUIC teams, but just small schools in general in the area as you've been coaching here for a couple of years now. What are your thoughts there, and do you see that picking up more as more AAU travel teams are coming together, and just the overall excitement right now in this region for girls basketball as a norm?
Yeah, it's super exciting. I mean, like we kind of talked about before we started the show, like Lainey Cahoon scoring 40 points, like it's nobody's business. Like that's awesome. And it doesn't even matter what kind of team you're playing, to score that many points is difficult. So I think it's just things like that. You got Gracie Furlong from Galena, great athlete who's going to go play, I think volleyball, I believe. But it's just cool to see small town kids doing things that people don't think they can do. I can't tell you how many times I was told, like, oh, you play 1A, you won't do well in college. And it's like, okay, like, that actually we're going to even do better because we're from small schools and we just have a thing about us that we know people look down because they come from bigger schools, and most respect small school kids, to be honest. But I think what's cool is that you just see a constant progression. What's hard, I think, the obvious of everyone knows is just how it's becoming harder to get kids to play three sports, and now it's becoming more specialized. And I understand both sides of the argument. But for me, it's hard because I played three sports, and up until high school, I played club for three sports. So you can make it work. It just takes you to do it, and it's not easy. But it does hurt my heart a little when I see these great athletes, Division One athletes, and they are only playing one sport. Like you can play volleyball and basketball if you want. So
Oh
it's
yeah.
kind of that kind of stuff I see both sides, and I know there's great clubs around here for all sports, but I just wish that kids could just play the sports they wanted to and didn't have the pressure to pick a sport. Or that's how, unfortunately, the circuit of certain AU is now, is that you kind of have to pick one in order to be successful. But I don't know. I really think you don't have to. So.
Well, two things on that. When I read all the stats, one of them was not Sophie Brunner's leader in steals at Aquin, because I remember you playing some softball at Aquin back in the day.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it was just funny because it breaks that thing of you have the Sophie Brunner going to Arizona State for basketball, and you were playing on the softball team because they needed you, and you were out there doing what you needed to do. But on your comment to that, and recently, you get on the platforms of Facebook and Twitter and all that, and you see the shout outs that you were affiliated with an AAU. Were you Heat or Wildcats back in the day?
I actually was neat. So we started with like my sister and some of my friends from Aquin and like Pearl City and other schools. We did like a small one. I
Okay.
can't remember what it's called. Maybe it was called Orange Crush. And then I actually did play on a team out of Chicago.
Okay.
Pete Norman's daughter, Kelsey Hafer, all of them, they played on it. It was called Illinois Elite.
Yep.
So I actually practiced Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 10 in near Schaumburg. But I would go to softball practice and softball games, and I would leave at certain parts of it, which obviously isn't great, but I had a conversation with my coach. And in the beginning, she really wasn't about that. And I respected it. I get it. You don't want a kid leaving. But I just told her, I'm like, I want you to understand when I'm here, like, I will be here. Like, I'm not thinking about, oh, I can't wait to go to basketball. So I would, sometimes some games I'd leave in like the 5th inning and I'd go to practice. And it's 2 hours to go, an hour and a half, and then come home, be home by 11:30 or 12 and do it again the next day. But that's kind of my point. Like, if you want to do it, like, you can make it work. It's just, I don't know. My thing was too, with our friend group we played all sports together. So, like, I had friends who did not love basketball, but they played it because that's just what we did. And that's the kind of stuff that's sad to me, is that you don't have as much of that going on. Everyone on that state team played volleyball and softball. I would say maybe besides one or two. But the other ones played golf, or we all
Right.
played 3 sports. And honestly, when we got softball, I signed up half the team. Like, softball is my favorite sport. I used to want to play that in college, actually. But it all worked out the other way. So yeah, I mean, in summary, it's one of those things where, in order to make it still fun for everyone, like, if I have a friend who loves volleyball and none of us play volleyball, like, that's not fair to her. So again, it's just the respect thing and really looking out for each other as a small town school. You have to understand, like, if we don't all play, we won't have a program.
No, I think that is, like you said, where it's lost right now. And the one I was thinking of, that was Abby, who played, I think, for the Heat. Barr.
Oh,
She
yeah,
was
yeah.
after
Abby
you.
Barr.
Abby played, and I had that in my head.
Yeah.
But that's why I give, like, my daughter Natalie played at Wildcats and the Heat, and now they're all one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I give them always a huge shout out, because they want their players to play multiple sports, and it's one of those things where they're like, hey, and Lainey, we talked about Lainey. She plays volleyball. Natalie plays volleyball and all that.
Right.
They do all that, and they're still affiliated in the fall. They played travel ball, right? And you work around the schedule, and you can make it work. The issue is when you have these travel coaches that say it's, pretty much skip everything for your high school and do that. And I think that is what has killed a lot of the high school, because people believe that, and the unfortunate part is I think that's how they're going to get their scholarship, or that's how they're going to get something. And it's like, you just got to be good, and you got to show up. And in the summertime, like for you were seen on the AAU circuit at those things, and then they just watched you in your regular season, and you got your scholarship, and you did all those things. And it's always a testament, and you always see that. And that's what's cool to hear.
Yeah, I just think it's one of those things where you just have to do what you know. I mean, if I understand if it's too much for someone, you pick one sport, so I respect that. But where I like get sad for kids is that they want to play more sports, but they say, my club coach just says I can't. And that's where it's hard, because it's not the kid's fault, right? You're putting them in a hard decision. So that's just where I hope we can get better with, or make something happen.
Everybody work together. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
So how did playing at Aquin prepare you for your success at Arizona State?
I would say we played in a very disciplined program. We did play 2-3 matchup zone most of the time, so that was tough for me to transfer to playing pressure man at ASU. I had to learn really quick how to play defense. um, but I think also learning how to win was a huge thing. And when you win 2 state championships like we did, that's all you want to do now. Is like you want to be on the best team, you want to play with the best players, you want to beat the best of teams, you want to play the best of teams. We weren't really afraid of anyone. Like if you're 2A, 3A, we didn't care. We just wanted to play you and see if we could beat you. So I think that kind of transferred over to college. And Jeff Curry was fiery, but he also loved us like we were his kids. And same thing when I went to college. She's fiery, but she loved us like we were her own. So I think it just kind of carried over. I was really fortunate throughout my whole playing. Like I never had a bad coach. I had great, great coaches. And I don't know if it was just because of the perspective I had on them, but in my eyes, they were really great coaches, and I always had good relationships with them. And that just transferred to ASU and knowing how to win, because that takes time to know. And then knowing how to win and stay there and what it takes to work hard was another one.
So you say you were affiliated with, it was an Illinois Elite?
Yep, Illinois Elite. I don't know if they still honestly have a program. I'm still in contact with my AU coach. I just haven't checked in on if they still have a program. But
So talk a little bit of the competition you played against and then what role they played in, like the recruiting process, because you ended up at ASU. So it's kind of a loaded question with all that. But then who are some schools that you were leaning towards and why? And then why at the end did you pick Arizona State?
yeah, so my AU program was definitely a huge reason why I got a lot of Division One offers, because when you get one, they all kind of just start trickling in. That's for anyone who's gotten Division One offers. But with Illinois Elite, my AU coach he was also an insurance salesman, so he was a salesman at heart. But he handled all the recruiting and like would set up the phone calls and all that. And he obviously sold us at tournaments and the whole 9 yards. But we played in back then, I think it was called like a blue chip circuit. It would kind of be similar to your EYBL now. And I played against a lot of top players, like ranked. I remember one time we played, it's probably my favorite AU tournament. We played the #1 point guard or the #1 post player, I can't remember. And up top of the rec center, the coaches were like lined up, and it was all the top coaches in the country, and we beat them. So when you beat a team that has the #1 player on it, now they start looking at that team who beat them. So those kind of things are fun, because then all of a sudden after a tournament, you've got 10 to 20 offers that you did not have before. So that was cool. And then what led me to ASU is actually Amanda Levins was the person that had reached out to recruit me first. And she's from Belvedere, huge time player from here. And she had been coaching at SIUE Edwardsville. And my AU coach was kind of like, I don't really know. Like, we can probably get some better offers. I was like, yeah, but I still kind of want to talk to her. And he's like, no, we'll wait. Well, then it's funny. The next year, she took the assistant coaching job at ASU. And now my AU coach was like, oh, yeah, we could talk to her. But so I was like, Amanda, that wasn't me. So that's kind of how they found me that way. But it was at tournaments. And my decision came down to DePaul and ASU. When I went on my unofficial to DePaul, I loved it. I was like, oh, I could totally see myself here. And then I went on my unofficial to ASU. I hated it. It was hot. It was huge. I was like, where am I? It was so hard to wrap my head around this major school. And then it was like the opposite thing happened. Then I went on my official visit back out to ASU in the fall, and I just knew. They always tell you, and I just knew I was going there. And then I went to DePaul the next weekend, and I was just like, this is not for me. So it was hard, though, because I kind of felt bad just for my friends and family at home. I just knew it would probably crush them that they couldn't drive to my games or see me. But honestly, it all worked out. They came out. They had great vacations, spring training. They loved it all. So
Nice.
it all worked out. And I was just very fortunate that I was even in the position to be able to pick from 2 top schools with really great coaches. I had a lot of different offers. Like I had Wisconsin offer me too, in different programs like that. But I don't know. I just felt within those 2, that's the ones I want to pick. But it wasn't easy. Like every night, I didn't sleep for probably like a month. I probably got like 4 or 5 hours of sleep, and I just make a pros and cons list and look at it every day. Like, I don't know which one to pick.
What's your favorite memory from your time at ASU?
I would definitely say when we went to the Sweet 16. It was at home. That's when they changed it that year when the top 4 seeds got to host the first 2 rounds. So we were down to Arkansas Little Rock by 18, and we came back and beat them and went to the Sweet 16. It was just a cool experience. You get to charter. Back then, it wasn't as popular as it is now. You got to charter fly, the whole thing. You're getting this whole escort into the stadium. And we lost to Florida State that year by 1, and then it was the whole thing. But we had really good years. But that was definitely probably my most favorite. My freshman year, we also beat North Carolina in Mexico, and they had the #1 recruiting class for freshmen. So that was fun too. But lots of good memories.
In college, one of the questions was toughest player, you faced. Who was the toughest player maybe in AAU or at Arizona State that you went against that, people out there may know the name that you went against and it was like,
Yeah,
later on.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was the question.
Okay. There's 2. I mean, everyone knows Asia Wilson. My senior year, we lost to them, I think, by 3 at South Carolina. She's just a really good player, but she was a really tough player just because of how versatile she is. And then the other one would have been Chinea Gumake. She sometimes is on ESPN doing broadcasting for girls basketball.
Yep.
You guys might see her. She was an athlete. I was a freshman. She was a senior, and she just killed me. Like, I didn't know what to do against her. She was just and she was a great person. So she was awesome to get to know after. But those 2 definitely were great players. I mean, I played against Sabrina Ionescu too when she was a freshman. She was really good then, but she wasn't what she is now. And Kelsey Plum, like, you have those kind of players, but for me, it was post players. Those 2 were really, really phenomenal players.
So you always talk about athletes getting into their zone and getting prepared for things. How did you prepare mentally for big games, whether it be in high school, college, professional? What were some of the things that you went through mentally and or physically that helped you get better prepared for that?
Well, I think the preparation, which I learned a lot in college, was it just starts before the day of the game. So I watched all my film always. I always knew my scouting report. I didn't know only my players that I was going to guard, but I knew the whole team, the point guards, the shooting guards. So I think the big key was just preparation, and then watching film so you can visually see what you're supposed to do. Always watching yourself after a game, no matter if it's a good or bad game. And then just kind of knowing what you're up against. But I wasn't someone who was, blaring rap in my ears and listen to country. That it wasn't my thing to like listen to music and get jacked up like that. I'm more of my job was always to kind of be the calm presence on the floor. So I didn't really do anything crazy, to be honest. I just kind of just was more quiet before games, and just I'm a thinker, so I would just think about what I got to do and what's my job and what do I got to do as a teammate, what I got to do guarding, what I got to do on offense, defense. So a lot of breathing exercises too. We learned a lot about that in college. We had a life coach, so we did a lot of that kind of thing. Visualization, just seeing yourself do well is a huge thing. And I think what a lot of athletes would tell you too is just how you talk to your brain. So training yourself to be positive, and you're going to mess up. Like, no matter what sport you play, you're going to mess up a lot. And how are you going to come back from that? That's the type of athlete you're going to be. So I think just learning what you need to do. But I can remember some games we would be doing the national anthem and I would be like nauseous, sick to my stomach, just because I knew, like, if I'm guarding Asia Wilson or certain post players, like, if they go off and have a good game, we are going to lose. So there's pressure there. But again, you're surrounded by so many great people, your teammates. You just got to remember, at the end of the day, this is just basketball. Like, it's not life or death. It's a game, and that's all it is. So.
Well, I like how you said how you prepared with self-talk. I think that's something that a lot of kids right now coming up that are in high school don't always get a full understanding of what that self-talk does for you. And you see a lot of things. I've seen it a lot lately, especially with like George Kittle, the tight end for San Francisco. They're always showing clips of him just talking to himself about be great today. I'm going to be great today. I'm healthy today. Just putting all that positive energy into his inner focus. And I mean, that is huge. And I'm glad that you nailed that, because I know that there will be kids that will watch this video, and hopefully that's one of the things that they get out of this conversation is, you can help yourself out a lot by just mentally preparing yourself by talking to yourself in a positive manner, and then, like you said, visually seeing yourself going through the steps and the processes, envisioning the game ahead of it actually playing out.
Yeah, I mean, self-talk is just everything, and I'm a big person of basketball's gonna stop one day, so who are you gonna be after? And I always kept that in my mind, just to train myself. Like you're training yourself to be a person to live, not just to play a sport. So you think about like life's gonna happen. How are you gonna talk to yourself? There's gonna be people better than you. Are you gonna talk down to yourself? Like how are you gonna talk to yourself? So I'm a big person of that, and just I can't explain enough how much self-talk it's everything. You could be the best athlete, but if someone else is mentally stronger than you, they're gonna beat you.
So we live in the Caitlin Clark world where everybody's looking at like her as a role model, everything like that. Now, there wasn't the Caitlin Clark back then. When you were coming up, what got you into basketball? Was there a role model that you looked at like, hey, or was it just one day you're like shooting hoops and it's like, I really like playing basketball? Was there something that triggered that on you, or what was it that got you going in the game as basketball?
Yeah, there's definitely something. So we're really close family friends with Colleen Hensey's family. Her
Yep.
sister is my godmother. Um, and Chelsea Bunyer, I don't know if you guys remember that name. She was
Yep.
like my idol of life. That's why I wear 21 too. But I just remember we were going to school one day and my mom had told me, yeah, like Chelsea, she's gonna go play at Butler, or not Butler, what'd she play? Wagner. She's gonna go play at Wagner, and my mom just told me like she's getting a full ride, like her school is paid for, everything, and I thought that was like the best thing ever. I think I was like in fourth or fifth grade, and I just told my mom, I'm like, I'm gonna do that. Like, I don't want you to have to worry about my school. I don't, all of that. So she really was the one that, like, I still admire who she is as a person, but she was the one that I'm like, I want to do this. And I was obsessed with Eastland to the point where I'd asked my mom if I could live with Colleen and play for her. But Bill Michelle at the time when he was the coach, he wasn't really about that. But no, she was definitely one. I mean, I grew up watching Candace Parker, Maya Moore. Sports Center was always on at our house, and with my friends, I would just tell them, "Can we watch Sports Center for 20 minutes, and I'll watch the movie you guys want to watch." They'll all tell you that. So I was always I still watch it. But like I said, she's just the one that she was just a great teammate, a great athlete. Colleen obviously is a Hall of Fame coach. We call her the Queen of Basketball, but just learning to like how she played the game and how she just never was a bad teammate, and that I just was like, I want to be that, and yeah, that's the reason why right there. That's why.
Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, Colleen was amazing. Her stats and her career speak for herself, absolutely. And she still gets talked about to this day. Being from Stockton originally as well, and I know her brothers went on and did some big things in coaching too. So, just great family, like you said, great family. If you had to pick one camp drill or activity that's always a hit, what would it be for you?
I'm big on ball handling, just making sure everyone can handle the ball, no matter if you're post or guard. That just literally just a ball handling routine. But I always love like a good disadvantage drill when you throw the ball at the baseline and you call one or two people's name, and now it's a 5-on-3. You really see who talks and who struggles, and talk, and you do it again and they don't talk. So I kind of like when you put players in positions where that you get them outside their comfort zone. That was like ingrained into my brain in college, is you need to live outside of your comfort zone. So anything that gets kids uncomfortable and puts them in positions where they have to make a decision. Am I going to turn to my teammates? Am I going to listen to my coach? Am I going to be a good teammate? Like, what am I going to do here? So any kind of drill like that, I would say. But anything, yeah, with a disadvantage or where they got to talk and scramble and do something like that. That's one of my favorites.
You played with when you got to the WNBA with Diana Taurasi. She is one of the most accomplished women's basketball players that people talk about. What was it like being around her every day? What stood out, and what did you learn anything from her?
That was one of the cool moments of my basketball life. Definitely. What was really wild was when I walked into the locker room when they for training camp, and she had like a legit D Tarasi name tag, and mine was in tape, but it was right next to her name because I
You
was
like sat down in her chair?
yeah, right. She was right next to me. She had all these Nike boxes. Her locker was full and mine empty with a piece of tape, and it said S Brunner. But no, she's just a really cool person. Like she just, I don't know. We call her DT, but she just is the type of person where she is literally a master at her craft, and she just shoots like she's who she is. And I what I really liked about her was how she's just a phenomenal teammate. Like she's always talking, she's making jokes all the time, she's hilarious, and she's always trying to help people, especially the younger players. Like she'd always give me advice, and like I played with Brittany Griner too, who was so nice to me. Um, they were just really encouraging, and but watching her routine was really cool. Just how does she handle herself, and how does she talk to everyone, and no matter if it's the janitor or no matter if it's our head coach, like how does she treat people, and that was cool to see.
What was it like playing internationally in Torino and Sesto or Milan?
Very different. The first year it was definitely a culture shock. Just the whole thing. One time my phone wasn't working yet and I got lost for like 45 minutes. I just kept going in circles around the roundabout. I didn't know how to go back home. I lost my general manager. I just learned how to drive stick. It was a whole mess. And then I finally made it back to my apartment. And they're very dramatic over there. I love them, but super dramatic. And the president was like, "We cannot lose our American," and the general manager was all upset. So it was an adjustment, but the first year in Torino, definitely an adjustment. The gyms are not as nice as they are in America, just different things. But I will say, like, the culture is awesome there. They just take life a little bit lighter than we do. They enjoy themselves. The food is top notch. I miss it every day. Milan was really some of my favorite years. Playing, I still am friends with a lot of them and my coaches. They still text me on my birthday. Um, and it was just a really fun time. Like everything is fun there to me. You can drive an hour and be in Lake Como. You can take a train to Switzerland and go through the Alps. It was just a phenomenal experience for me, and to do it when I was young, and to have my friends come over and visit my family. It was my favorite thing was always to share my experiences with my family and friends. So when they could all come over, that was always my favorite. I had I think 6 or 7 of my best friends come over. They all stayed in my apartment, and every day they were on a train ride somewhere. So it was a cool time.
So you got done with that, and I know you coach now at Rockford Christian School, correct? Um, did you coach before that, or did you come back from there? And I know you teach over in Rockford. What was the path after? Um, what was the path after you got done playing professionally? What led you to Rockford Christian School and the jobs you're doing now?
Yeah, so I actually had to come home because COVID happened. I had planned on being done that year, but I wanted to finish in Australia. So that didn't happen. But when I stopped, I just knew it was time to be done. I'm the type of person I don't drag things out. When it's done, and we'll figure out what we got to do next. Um, and I had came back, my family friend, her son had gone to Cherry Valley, and she always talked really good things about it. And I knew I wanted to be a teacher, so when I came back, I actually started coaching with the Heat, with John Penny. I coached with him a few summers. And then I started my master's to get certified for teaching. And then I became a building sub that year. So I got into teaching that way. And then I had a long term sub. So I got a lot of good experience. But actually, right before that fall started, Amanda Levins, she now is the head coach at Nevada. She had just taken that job a couple of years prior. She had called and asked if I wanted to be a grad assistant out there and get my master's paid for and the whole thing. And I was like, I don't. So, so a lot of people are like, how could you turn that down? And I just know like that's just not what I wanted. It would have been a really cool experience, but I hadn't been home in 7 years, and it was just time to do something different. So um, looking back, it's interesting. Like I always think, like if I would have done that, like how would my life be right now? So, but then I just went on and I got my master's. I was teaching and coaching at Rockford Christian, and then now I'm a full time teacher on my own, coaching and yeah, now I'm at where I'm at.
What was your biggest adjustment though now? I think it's always a tough thing from being where you were at and then you come to back to the high school from where you were at, playing professionally. What was the change like that you had to do, maybe even internally of playing where you're at, and then coming back and starting kind of with high school kids again and building them up to where they got to be. What was that like?
A lot of patience. I'm just so competitive, and my problem is I just see like so much potential in every kid I work with, no matter if I'm teaching or coaching them. And I just know that they can like get there. A lot of the ones I coach, and so it's just knowing like what are they missing, like filling the gaps. Fundamentals is a huge thing. I feel like we're kind of overseeing right now with kids when they're younger because we all want to do the Caitlin Clark moves, the whatever whoever your idol is, and but what they don't sometimes understand is, and Caitlin Clark didn't do those moves at their age. She was
Right.
doing fundamental shooting form, ball handling, and she'll even tell you that. So I think that was an eye opener. Is it actually made me more thankful for the coaching I had when I was younger, just because when I started working with different kids, I realized like some of them just were missing a couple things that were really key fundamental things that I was like, why are we not knowing? Like I knew this in second grade. Like I was taught this in fifth grade. So that kind of stuff was frustrating, but I also think I love coaching. I never thought I would coach ever. But I love it now, and just to see like kids grow and mature and just have good relationships with them, and to reconnect with different coaches in the air is fun, different referees, um, seeing them. So that's been really fun. But honestly, the biggest adjustment for me personally was just like finding time to like work out. Like I'm like, this is crazy because when your job is to work out, now it's like, when am I supposed to work out? So that's thrown me for a little bit of a loop, and just I ate super clean and healthy, and I mean I still eat healthy, but now it's you're just a normal person, you're not an athlete. So that whole change, it took me honestly a few years to adjust. I had a lot of fun when I came home, and then I had to kind of, okay, now we gotta get back to business. But no, it's been a good adjustment, and it's crazy though to think that like 4 years ago I was playing basketball. It seems longer, like it's been over with. But I'm very happy where I'm at. I'm engaged now too, so that's exciting. And
Congrats.
yeah, thank you. So a lot of good things have happened since I stopped playing basketball, and I really feel good about that whole thing. But yeah, it's been cool to see just how the area is still transforming athletes. I still will argue with anyone that the NUIC has the best athletes. Like there's a reason they continuously develop, you know, Division 3 to Division 1 JUCO athletes, and they're small town kids, but I would put them up against most other big schools. So that's been cool to see.
So you've been away for 7 years, you come back home. How did the Freeport, Aquin, and even the Rockford Christian or Cherry Valley communities help shape your basketball career and now into your coaching career?
Um, they, I mean, I always appreciate like people really respect just who I am. I don't always love, when people are like, oh, Sophie Brunner, and I'm like, guys, we gotta stop doing this. It's about these kids now. It's not about me. But I do appreciate it. Like I'm not ungrateful for it. I just what I really loved is just the respect aspect, and that people. I mean, I know they watched me, and they watched me play and all that kind of thing, but they treat me just normal, and that's all I want. I don't want to be treated like I'm above people because I'm not. And what I've enjoyed is just seeing different kids and being able to kind of share my experience with them. Like, listen, I'm not saying this to boast, but I played on like some really good teams with some really good athletes, and there's nothing that like you can't do that they aren't doing. You can still be a really good teammate. You can, all these things. So I just try to. I think what happens, especially now with social media, I feel really bad for some kids because they just they look at a post and they instantly are like, I'm not good enough. well, actually you are. That's a highlight reel. That has nothing, you don't know the missed shots they're doing, bouncing the ball with their foot. That's not in their social media post. So I think that's a huge thing for me is that who cares what people are doing? Like I never cared. I don't care if say I play for an AU team and they're not posting about me, I don't care. Like that's what I try to tell kids. Because first off, that program can't post about every kid every day. So that's not fair to them. And second, again, like who cares? Like this is your life to live, not theirs. You're gonna get where you want to go, but you got to stop comparing yourself to others. So that's kind of my biggest message, and what I try to teach them is just what I've learned is like we don't need to do all that.
So you're involved in coaching along with doing camps, the Sophie Brunner Basketball Academy with kids. What's the feeling like seeing kids enjoy the game of basketball? Because you see a lot of kids all over the area, and it has to be a pretty good feeling when it's always great to have people there that want to be there.
Yeah.
And the excitement that the young kids have, like you said you coach or you teach fourth grade.
Yeah.
My daughter subs and she says she likes the younger grades because they actually like coming to school, right? That's a crazy thing. Rather than high school, it's always a drag and it's always high school. But it has to be fulfilling seeing kids come to your camps, the younger ones, with full of excitement. And someone like you being in that position can sometimes deter kids from playing, but you have that to where a lot of kids go to your basketball camps and they come away wanting to play basketball and wanting to do that. And that's a credit to you. But speak a little bit about the camps that you hold and the young kids and the joy you get from that.
Yeah, honestly, that's like my favorite time of the year is when we do camps. It's a lot of work to put together, but we have a pretty good team of people that do it with us every summer. Um, yeah, I don't know. To me, it's really fun where you see the kids that come in that you can tell they've never probably played basketball. They're just there maybe because their parents signed them up or because their friends are doing it. And then they leave. They're just like, they still probably don't really know how to play basketball, but they are so excited about what we just did. So my thing with camps is always like they should be learning something, but they need to have fun and just love the game. Like I'm someone who I just simply have always loved basketball. It was never forced on me to love it. And that's what I try to teach kids is like you have to love it before you can really be good at it. And if you don't love it, if it's me, I just probably wouldn't play it. Like I'd probably go do something I love. So the camps are fun, and I think too, just seeing how kids progress. And I know that some of them leave liking it, like I said, but I also know some of them leave still thinking like, I don't know if I can do. I know Sophie played this and that, but I try to tell them I didn't do anything. Like I lived in Freeport. I was middle class family. We had a basketball hoop outside. I was outside every single day, dribbling a basketball, doing ball handling. So you can do it. You don't need a trainer. Trainers obviously help, but you don't need a trainer to get you better. And a trainer will tell you you need to still do your own. Like I'm here to help you, teach you things, but you need to do it on your own. And I think the want to do it is another big thing I talk about with kids at camp is you have to want to get better. Nobody can force you. And the ones that, we all know different situations where, parents are forcing kids or you got the typical, they care more about this or that. And it's just, you just know that kid's never going to go far with basketball because they're going to get burnt out from it. They don't love it. So my message to them is no matter what game you're playing, no matter what sport you're playing, you just have to love it.
What advice would you give the young athletes from small schools or even the big schools that want to compete at a high level?
For one, I would just tell them you got to work hard. I mean, you got to start with that. And you have to be willing to do things that you don't want to do. So you got to be the type of person that you don't care if you score that night or if you didn't. You got to be someone who wants to win and be competitive. You also have to be someone that just mentally is really tough. You can't there's going to be so many people, the more success you have and the more attention you get, all of these things, you're going to have more people saying negative things to you and you just have to be tough. I'd also say just pay attention who you're around. In high school, you don't need to be doing all the adult-like stuff. You got your whole life to do that stuff. Just stay focused. And when you go to college, you got 4 years. I mean, now I guess you could do 11 if you really wanted to. I just talked the other day about JUCO, but in my eyes, my body couldn't take more than 4 years. And I don't want to be there for more than 4 years. So I think my biggest message is just you can do it. but you're the only one at the end of the day that's going to be able to do it. So you got to make a decision. Am I going to talk positive? It's back to that self-talk. Am I going to work hard? And am I going to do it consistently and be disciplined? Am I going to go do things with my friends I shouldn't? Or am I going to do what I should do and stay focused on my goals? So know who you're around, stay focused, and just work super hard at what you want to do.
And I think as a coach, we hear a lot of things about mental toughness. How would you go about teaching your kids about mental toughness with your current team and or kids coming through your camp?
Um, First off, I'd put them in situations. We talk about, when things go wrong, this is what I've seen work, and then put them in situations and just call them out. I'm a big person where I just call it out. Like, hey, you're not being tough right now, and you're better than that. Like, I know you are, and just holding them to that expectation. I think sometimes what happens is we don't know it. I'm guilty of it too, but we coddle kids because, we know this is going on from this is going on. But in life, like, nobody's going to coddle them. So I think what, just as a coach, I've learned is you got to hold them to a high expectation if you want them to achieve high expectation, because no one's going to be able to hold them to that if you don't. So I take that role really serious as a coach, is just making sure they know that I care about them, but also, like, in order to get better, you got to really, be positive, work hard, but mentally build yourself up. And again, it goes back to, who are you around? Are you around people who are negative all the time? Well, you're going to be negative. Are you around people who want the best for you? Then you're going to do really well. So just knowing what you watch. I wouldn't probably watch a whole bunch of social media stuff of people posting their highlights. I probably wouldn't do all that. And just knowing that, like, you can truly accomplish what you want. It's just, how hard are you going to work to do it?
So we've talked a lot, this past almost hour about basketball, Sophie Brunner, and all of those things. You said you recently got engaged. Again, congrats on that.
Thank you.
Is Sophie Brunner 2024? What are now the hobbies, your passion that you do outside of basketball? Because it's that next phase that we all talk about doing. What's 2025 Sophie Brunner? What's in the works in the next year?
Well, planning a wedding's in the works. We're getting married in July, and my last name is going from Brunner to Bruder, Bruder.
So
Yeah,
not a hard change.
not a hard change. It's kind of funny though, but yeah. I honestly, a huge passion of mine is still teaching. I love teaching. It's one of my favorite things. Just being around family and friends again after being away for so long. It's been so nice to just get back in a rhythm of, attending family things and seeing different friends, watching them develop their lives, they're having kids, getting married. It's just a fun time that I'm in. We're always busy doing something. I love being around people, love being around, like I said, my family and friends, going to basketball games. I think I've been to like 10 in the last 4 days. But just, I don't know, doing things that I couldn't really do it when I was playing. And because like I said, I really took the role of being a role model very serious. So I didn't do certain things, but now it's kind of like, okay, I can relax and be an adult and go have fun with my friends, still stay responsible, but do things that I really didn't have the time to do, and start building my life with Marcus as my fiance, with him, and just it's going to be an exciting year, and just moving forward with that. But also, still staying focused on what I know my purpose is in life, is helping kids and just helping them see, what they can do in the world.
So you were talking about teaching, and before we came on air, you said you teach at Cherry Valley Elementary.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What grade do you teach, and what's your favorite thing about being a teacher?
Yeah. So I teach fourth grade. And my favorite thing, I think, is just when you see that light bulb go on, no matter if it's been 2 weeks or 4 months, but you finally see them get it. It's a Title I school because it's Radford Public School. So there's definitely a lot of things that go on there, a lot of hard things, that you have to kind of help kids overcome. There's a lot of things they're going through. But what I just love is the relationships that you build with kids. And I work for a great principal, and the staff that I work with is awesome. It's a really fun place to work. But just knowing, one of my really good teaching friends, she just told me, like, our job as a teacher is really, it's serious. You can really damage a kid or you can help them. So that's never left me, and I think that's just that's what I feel like my purpose is truly, is just helping them and not making their life any harder. But if you don't help them, who is? So that's how that is with teaching.
I know, Sophie, you don't like to talk about it, but we're at the end, and I always say this towards the end of a recap of everything. I know you don't like to hear it, so I'll say it for you. When it comes to basketball in the last however many years that people can think of, you are normally the standard to which everybody holds to. You hit every stat that people talk about. Over 2,000 points, won state championships. You did it the right way. You did it that, and that's why when people talk about who's the best basketball player, one of the best basketball players, your name is, whether it be male or female, your name is always brought up there, and it was been a pleasure to bring you on. People have been asking for us to get you on so they can hear where Sophie Brunner is at today and what you're up to. And I just remember, I always remember this from back in the day when you came to Orangeville. I knew we were in a lot of trouble because it was right away in the game, and everybody talked. You got to go see Sophie Brunner play, blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, well I'll go watch. And I'm sitting in the lobby and I look in, and you're one of the few, and now I got two girls, one of the few girls that I can watch do this. You literally were holding the ball palmed behind your back and pointing for girls where to go. And I looked at the guy next to me and go, yeah, this ain't gonna be good. This isn't gonna be good. We're gonna get it tonight. And I know it was a bad night for the Orangeville Broncos that night, but honestly, every time your name is said, everybody always says the same thing. You did it humbly, you were about team, and you did it the right way. And I don't think there can be anything better said about a player or now a coach in that. And you were a pleasure to watch. And you know what I mean? Any kid that is playing for you at Rockford Christian should have the pleasure of playing for you because they're being taught the right way.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. And I just hope that with that, I just hope that kids just see that I hope for them they can, be a great teammate. And I hope every record of mine is broken in the next 5-10 years. But I also just hope that they just do it the right way. And I was taught the right way, and so I just felt like my responsibility was also to teach others how to do it the right way. So there's nothing better than being a good teammate and also being successful.
And the biggest part of the whole thing that I always say, do it humbly, because you'll get what you get, but doing it sometimes the wrong way will rub people the wrong way. But there was never a group or never thing when you guys went on to state. I think every area school was behind you because of how you guys acted and how you guys played, and that's a testament to you guys. And hopefully you guys all get together for when you guys get inducted and you can celebrate again.
Yeah, definitely. I hope so too. It's been really fun having me on your guys' podcast, and I really appreciate what you guys are doing for the area. Like listening to Tessa and you guys talk, like she's a stud, and just seeing more athletes like that come out of our area has been really cool. So thank you for highlighting different people and just bringing more awareness, to our conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something that we wanted to do. Jay actually pitched the idea to me because I've been covering football for better half of the last decade, and Jay,
got to get some girls on here, Sophie. We got to get some girls. I got a boy and two girls, and it was always just like one of those things where, there's just as many girls recently getting the D1 looks and doing big things that they need to get their names out and get their names heard. And we're turning Kyle into a girls basketball fan. He made it over to Boylan this last weekend and watched. He was there. We got to keep him coming because Elaney put up 39 and 46 with Kyle in the stands. So we got to keep Kyle coming to our games.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, I love how, and I also feel like it's nothing against guys. Like I'm a big fan of obviously men's sports, but it is cool to see how many people are supporting girls sports, and it's not just because they feel like they should. I actually just think that people generally are enjoying it, so I appreciate that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, even in the current landscape of basketball in general, you're seeing the CC effect with Caitlin Clark and just how much that exposure is just blowing up. I mean, and you go to these big games like one of the teams we got to see was Peoria Notre Dame this past weekend. And I remember telling Jem, like, man, I really want to see them play. They won the 2A state title last year. And, they lived up to every bit of what they were talked up to be, and they got 2 girls on their team getting D1 looks right now as well. So, it is a lot of fun. It doesn't matter if it's boys or girls. It's just the absolute pleasure get to go watch people be able to compete and compete at a high level on top of that, and that's what makes it a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree with that.
So thank you, Sophie, for coming on here. We really do appreciate you taking time out of your day to come on to our podcast. And like you said, it's definitely something that we want to get out to the public across all of Northwest Illinois. And hopefully at some point in the near future, it reaches further out, gets more statewide recognition as well. But in the meantime, our focus is getting the stories among our conference out there, and you're definitely one of the top storylines that we wanted to get on here, especially as we're just, what is this, our 7th week now in our podcast history. So, it's something that we're continually trying to grow, and getting stories like yours out there is only going to make it grow even faster and get more recognition to not just you, but like you said, getting recognition to the kids that are coming up through the ranks right now, getting the stories from coaches, former players, current players, things like that. But, being able to get, we had Cooper Hoffman on here a couple weeks ago, and we're planning on getting some more current athletes on as we continue to drive down. So thank you again for coming on.
Thanks, Sophie.
Well, we just got done talking with Sophie Brunner, and what a great conversation that was, Jay, talking about, all the things that led her from being in the Aquin school systems up to her time playing AAU ball, how she got recruited to ASU and ended up, playing professionally both in the WNBA and over in Italy, and along with the Pan American games that we found out that she played in back in 2015 as well.
Yeah, I think it was just one of them things that it was a typical, from what you hear, Sophie Brunner response. She thanked her family, the Aquin community, her teammates, her coaches, and that's the way she was as a player. That's the way she was brought up, and that's why she had the success and still having that success that she has yet today.
Yeah, absolutely. So, some other things going on across the NUIC. We had a big holiday week.
Yep.
And with that comes a lot of holiday tournaments. And taking a look on the boys' side for basketball, we just found out that Eastland won the Constellation Championship at the State Farm Classic down in Bloomington, beating Fieldcrest by a score of 47-43.
Yep.
We take a look at the State Farm Classic Championship game, which is going to take place tomorrow at 5:15 p.m. where Pectonico plays St. Joe Ogden. Cooper Hoffman's been having a big tournament down there, from what we heard, scored 37 points in a win a couple games ago. And then the other one was the Erie Championship game with Lena Winslow and Galena, and that's taking place on Monday at 7 p.m. as well.
Yeah, I think you get a good vibe. I think when the holiday season, you see a lot of these teams travel. I think you do that simply in the boys and the girls side. You do that just to face somebody different, to see different things. I think some people will look at wins and losses, and we'll talk about it in the next segment. But you go to these tournaments to get better. You go to these tournaments to get better and get ready because after January, your conference play steps up. And you're everybody's goal right now is a conference championship, and then it's regional seeding, and then it's a regional championship, right? But you're trying to get your teams in the best mind frame and start to play their best basketball. That's why you see an Eastland and a Peck going down to State Farm. They're playing teams that they won't see unless they're deep into a playoff run, but they're not staying around or not doing anything, or they're not playing teams that they've already played 2 or 3 times in another tournament. So great to see that, and it's great to see multiple teams in the NUIC. Galena playing for a championship, Peck playing for a championship, and Eastland winning a championship in the consolation side, that the NUIC and basketball boys is doing what they should.
Yeah, absolutely. And, talking about, Eastland and Lena Winslow, we've talked about them being state ranked. We've seen some of the Power 25 come out, where East Dubuque and Dakota have been mentioned as well. Yep. So we continue to see those names build up as the season continues on, and now we're getting ready to roll into January, where the final conference push is coming on ahead of the tournament play that begins in February.
Yeah, on the boys' big matchup, it'll be who can, if anybody can stay with Peck on the boys, and it's going to be matchup. Dakota won the first matchup with Lena. Who's going to win round 2? And then is there a team that can get hot on a night and play with Peck? That's going to be the biggest thing in the NUIC North. In the East with Eastland, I think it's kind of Eastland's to lose, and we'll see if anybody can compete with them on that side of the bracket.
So taking a look at the girls' side, I was able to come around and do some live play-by-play or whatever, getting NUIC All Access at the Boylan Reindeer games, where your Orangeville Broncos finished in 5th place. Lainey Cahoon, big nights for her, back-to-back nights, career goals made with points scored, 39 against Sycamore and then 46 the following day against Beloit Memorial, and getting named all-tournament team there as well.
Yeah, I think, in speaking of you popping over there, I think it's always a good matchup, for us the last couple of years to go there. We'll take a loss or two. I will take a loss or two, and I am completely fine with it because the pace of play and the teams you're playing against, record-wise, sometimes aren't great, but you're talking about 3A, 4A teams that are playing some tough 3A, 4A competition, and they're coming down, and we're playing up. And it's, again, if you're a solid 1A team, you can play with multiple 2A, 3A teams. And you've seen the last, the 2 games versus Sycamore, who is a very, very young but athletic team.
Oh, yeah.
And Laney was able to do the 39 there. And then yesterday in that shootout with Beloit Memorial, that was an up and down game where she had 46. I will say this. That 46 is different than a lot of others sometimes you see because the game was only an 8-point game. I love seeing those type of high scoring games rather than a girl has 35 and they win by 40, right? Because then, they were in it some times where you probably could have pulled and this and that as a coach. But to put up 46 in I think it was 77, it was like
77-69.
Yeah, the score. I don't. 77-69. It was a back and forth game, and you were there for that. There was a lot of craziness that was going on in that game with technical fouls and everything like that. But it was a great thing for our team to get an eye opener of the speed and athletic ability of teams are going to see coming down the road, and that goes on to the next one where the Pecatonica team finished 2-2. They had that very great win versus Freeport, and then they lost a game or two there. But again, they're playing at a Dixon tournament with some of the top teams in the state. You'll take a loss or two to find out. You don't learn in the games. You learn in the losses, and that's what we were able to do versus Boylan. We came out, we didn't play well. We learned from it, get better. Peck will get better, and they'll be there in the end, and that'll be a matchup down the road. Some other things we've seen, Stockton will play Stockton girls who I've been high on and talked about, and I know they're going to be at the end. They will play Monday for 3rd place at the Prophetstown tournament. Dakota wins the Hiawatha tournament. Finley Banks, Kennestucky were named all tournament in that. And then shout out to Gracie Furlong from Galena. They finished 5th at the State Farm, but she hit that number that I think is going to be the big number now. And she hit the 2,000 mark. So she's been doing it since her freshman year. 2,000 points for that player. If you haven't seen her play, she is something to watch. Super athletic, can probably pick whatever sport. I know she runs track, I believe, in the spring. Was probably able to pick between basketball, volleyball, and track to go Division I in either 3 because she's that type of athlete. And hit her 2,000 point down at the State Farm Classic.
Yeah, I'm interested to see. I want to see Galena play because, like you said, we've seen them in the state rankings or the MaxCaps ratings as one of the top teams coming out of the NUIC. We talked about it on last week's show with the regional and sectional pairings or sites coming out. Pairings haven't been determined yet, but taking a look at that, I definitely would like to see a big game matchup, whether it be Galena River Ridge, Galena Orangeville, Galena Pecatonica, something like that. That would be a lot of fun to take a look at, and I think it'd be a lot of fun for the fans to get to some of these games too, just to see what these girls are doing.
Yeah, I know a week from Monday we play Galena at home. We have a week off, which I don't like, but we have a week off going into that Galena game. But it's going to be a big matchup. You're going to want to see for the Galena, they play that at the State Farm, which is a very tough tournament again for the girls basketball side, right? Their biggest thing is where they're gonna match up with on their side, because the matchups are going to come when they get in conference versus Stockton and versus River Ridge. River Ridge has a really good record, probably has the best record of them all. Will they be able to keep that? And how will they handle Galena? Because that's been their thorn in the side the last couple years. And Stockton, I guarantee, is going to get hot towards this middle to the end of the year. They're going to get in shape. They're playing better basketball. That Stockton team is going to be there at the end. So in that conference wise, it's going to be really interesting how that forms out between those three teams, of what they're going to do. And we got January to get excited for.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun for sure. Like you said, a lot of great things coming up. The conference push is coming right in front of us. It's going to get very exciting. Lots of ball games in the next 4 or 5 weeks.
Yep.
And then we run into regional play, which is going to be even more exciting, especially with the way both the boys and girls sides are breaking out for what could happen once seeding takes place.
Yeah, I think that'll be the big thing. You'll see some big head-to-head matchups that are going to dictate the 1 through 4. And we've always said it always plays itself out, and then you get to regionals and anything can happen.
So when do you guys have your regional seeding begin? When's that open up? Do you know?
The end of January, beginning of February.
Okay, so by the mid-February 12th-ish,
Yep.
we'll know exactly who's playing where and when.
Yep, who's playing where, who's playing when, and where it's all going to, we know where it's going to go down at, but how everything's going to get divided 1 through 4, and then everybody after that. So on the boys' side and the girls' side, it's going to be interesting. It'll be here before you know it. And, hopefully we can see on the boys' side and girls' side, teams make it down to Illinois.
Yeah.
Illinois State.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Like you said, big numbers. Lainey Cahoon also picked up her 100th career win as a varsity player. Her career record now sits at 115. And as we just talked with Sophie Brunner, her career record at Aquin was 103-24. So clearly Lainey's in some big comparison there too.
Yeah, you've seen that. I know in a whole different thing. I don't know. I always look at everybody's stuff and everything like that. I know Gracie Furlong is a game or two within that 100 point mark. It's one of those things I don't think is talked about enough as a starter. I think it sometimes gets, everybody loves points. Everybody talks about points, right?
Yeah.
We talked about, Laney's weekend, or this player scores 20 or whatever. I think when you look at the body of work for kids, look at points scored, those things, and their win-loss record for team and how they play. And I can speak for myself for as being the coach of Laney with her 100 win. It doesn't matter for her if she scores 10 points, 4 points, 20 points, 40 points, right? It's still the same to her, as long as at the end of the game we got that W, right?
Yep.
And in those games, it was shocking to everybody, because you would think if you had 46 points, you're like, man, she shot a lot, or she did this and that. And it was a lot of times you're like, you wanted her to do a little more, right? Like, she's a player who scores it quietly, and sometimes I don't feel gets the recognition because her goal isn't to play college basketball. So I think there's some of that, like, you see these girls getting offers and you see this, and I think sometimes they're like, well, her goal isn't that, right? And that has to be okay for people to say, and that has to be okay for people to hear, right?
Yeah.
When your goal for college is, your first thing is, what do you want to do academically and what do you want to get into? If that doesn't fit the narrative of playing college basketball, then that needs to be okay. And right now, that's where she's at with it. It may change, I don't know, but it's one of those things, you don't see the offer thing and the videos and all that of her. That's not her. But I think when you go pound for pound for what she's done this year and what she's done for the last 3, I think, yes, the 100 wins is huge. She's over 1,800 points, over 500 steals. You put that up against them, three conference titles so far in a regional. I mean, you put that up against anybody. Don't have the state titles like Sophie does, but you start putting those numbers up against the last 20, 30 years. it goes a long way. And you're going to see multiple girls do it. Like a Gracie Furlong has been to state multiple times. She has over 2,000 points. She's been to, state and won regionals and sectionals. You know, that goes on that resume. And whether she goes and plays volleyball, which I think she is, or basketball, and if she decided not to, it should not change your view of where she's at as a player. And I think sometimes that gets skewed, but
No, absolutely. I mean, you talk about it all the time. I mean, while there's a lot of things that you have to do in order to find and have success at the high school level, it gets multiplied when you want to be a college athlete. And it doesn't matter if you're going NAIA, JUCO, D3, D2, D1, it's all the same. But at the same time, even going from high school to D3 is a big jump. D3 to D1 is an even bigger jump. And there's a lot more expectations. Like Sophie said, there's a lot more pressure. And you have to be able to live within that environment of not just the pressure of going to school and getting the grades, because NCAA, you have to carry a 2.0 GPA cumulative in order to be eligible. And if you don't, then you're not playing anyway. And then on top of that, you have the pressure of the fans. You have the pressure of the coach who is specifically hired there to just do that. And they have to win. And if they don't win, they're gone. So there's a lot more to it. And if you're not 100% committed to that regime and environment, you're not going to find success no matter how good you are. And like you said, a girl like Lainey wanting to go to school to do something totally different and not play, like you said, there's something wrong with that, and it does not take away any of the talents that she has. I listened to the Beloit Memorial coach ask you right after the game,
arguing.
Is she going to play college anywhere?
It's like, well, not right now. And it was like an argument with that, a good argument with it. But
Right.
but I think, and I only say that simply for the fact I think young adults, young kids get this feeling that if they don't do it, they've like failed something, or they
Yeah.
look differently. And it's like, we just watched Sophie Brunner. Sophie Brunner will go down as possibly the best girls basketball player in Northern Illinois, right? Her resume speaks for itself. It wouldn't have mattered if she would have went to Arizona State and just did what she did academically and came back, or if she played basketball and came back. That shouldn't change what she was, or she should have felt any pressure. She wanted to go play college basketball. That's great. I've had football players when I coach football that had some opportunity to go play D3 or whatever basketball, and that you put your thing out there, and they got some very good offers to some Division One institutions that academically helped them a lot more than going to play just to go play football 4 more years.
Yeah.
And they, the question was asked me, and I don't, right, wrong, or different, everybody can say the different thing, but I looked at them and said, football's going to end, right?
At some point.
At some point, football's going to end, and you need to do what's going to be better for you down the road, rather than just thinking the next 3-4 years because you love football. Because everybody says, well, that's going to be your best. If your best time is your high school basketball playing days, my job as a coach isn't right, because you got so many more things to look forward to when you start a family and do those things, that the pressure shouldn't be on a kid that they've failed somehow, or failed their town or their coach because they decide to go academically. Now, that's one of the things, you got to put yourself in that position. I think it's great for kids that can do it, but it's not everybody's goal and everybody's dream. And you just want to make sure that the kids pick what they want to do, because they're the ones that can have to accomplish that.
Yeah.
Because college is hard, man. And having 2 kids right now in it, and a third one trying to pick their way and living it right now, college is hard and college is long. And neither of my older 2 play any sports, and it's a grind for them. It is simply a grind. And I know, with what they're doing, is pretty hard. But these are kids, and we got to make sure that kids know that, do the best you possibly can, and support them behind it.
Yep. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all going to take care of itself.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this on past shows as well, that you have to be able to find the path you want to take. You got to be able to find the school that you want to go to. And you have to be able to find your course of study. And you got to make that all work. And sometimes just going the school route's what matters. And And for other kids, it's going to the trades. Maybe they're not a school type person. They like playing sports, but they know that going to college is going to be outside of their realm, and it's not what they want to do in a career.
Speaking of, that was the route I took, and I went to school for 2 years, and I was trying to get into the trades for the whole time I was doing it, and I was fortunate enough to get in, and I went that route, and I've had multiple younger kids go that route. And if you look at opportunity that creates, I think that was always a thing where you have to go to college, you have to do this. And if you look at the trades and look at that thing for kids that want to do that thing, you'd be shocked at the opportunities that they have. And the main goal for anything is be supportive of what your kid wants to do and what they want to do, because they're going to have to make that choice. And it's not of doing something to be lazy. It's doing something and attacking it. Whether you're going into the trades or you're going into college, it is a job, and it is a full blown thing, and it blows by, because I've had multiple kids say, I wish I would have went to college. Boy, that was quick. And 4 years later, they're still figuring out what to do. And it's like, that's one of those things. 4 years is pretty quick in the timeline of things. If you focus on it, get done, then you can pick whatever the heck you want to do, and hopefully you pick right. But I know that has to be your main focal point, is go to a school that you need to. And it was great to hear from Sophie saying the same thing, and the way she did it. And we're going to see so many other kids here in the next year do it and make their decision of where they're going.
Yeah, it's a fun process to just be able to sit back and watch. I know as a kid that going through that stuff, it is a pressure situation, and when you finally make that commitment, you feel that bit of relief. You're like, oh man, it's finally done. Now I can just move on. And like you said, Sophie talked about that with she coming down to Arizona State and DePaul. She was wanting to go to DePaul.
Didn't sleep for a week worrying about it, and she did it. And she, you feel a peace with it, and she did, and she made the right choice. And a lot of kids make the right choices. It's just make the choice you want to make.
Yeah.
And don't feel forced into it.
Anyway, great story. Great having Sophie on. Jay, I really want to thank you for getting her on here as well, because your connections help lead us to that conversation with one of the best athletes, period, to come out of our conference ever.
Yep.
And so thank you for inviting her on and getting her on the show. That was a lot of fun talking with her. A lot of big games here this week. And then, like we said, we're going to turn the corner of the holiday season here and get into the new year, start breaking down into more
the conference race, yep,
championship type games, and start building up that seeding for the playoffs. So get out to the games, support your teams, and as always, root for the NUIC.